rise one day at a time. Kimmy Kim and Elations Radio. They're here to get your day going fine. Kimmy Kim and Elations Radio. Kimmy Kim and Elations Radio. Kimmy Kim and Elations Radio. And here's your host, Miss Kim Robinson.
Black Lives Matter. You know, welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. Oh, this is Minister Sedric coming back at you tonight. You know, kind of a heavy heart, but you know what? still hopeful, still praying. Today is Friday, May the 29th, 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Standard Time or Central Time. Wow, it's been a lot going on this week, and I tell you, I got to admit that it's been difficult to keep my relentless pursuit attitude on. You know, as a people, we are relentless, and we believe in God, and we believe in, you know, God's rule. We believe that we should be accountable one to another. But, man, we need a change in this climate that we're living in. You know, I was reading today Genesis 1:26-28, and it simply says, God said, let us make mankind in our image and our likeness, so that they may rule over all creatures, you know, all creatures. You know, we are here in America here today. I believe that we have, America has not progressed much. So today we're talking about climate change, and I guarantee you we're not talking about the weather. We're talking about the way we are treated as a people. And I had this whole big devotional set up, but you know what? I really don't feel like getting into that today. But I really want to talk about what's going on in our country today when we have a man who holds the highest office in the land, who strokes, who just simply strokes the embers and creates fires when there shouldn't be, who speaks out of turn. Then we have all these groups, these supremacy groups, and let's just call it for what it is, especially the white supremacy groups, these hate groups that are treated, they're lawbreakers and they're openly breaking the laws, but they're treated with more dignity and more respect than people who are trying to abide by the laws and adhere to the laws and just trying to live every day. And it's tough. In case somebody didn't notice, I'm a black man in America. I'm an African American. I can be called the American Negro, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to associate me with, to my heritage, to my people. I didn't get to choose at birth what I was going to look like. You know, didn't even get to choose what my voice was going to sound like. But as I grew up, I made some choices. But it's difficult to see what's going on in our communities right now and not feel some sort of hostility. And I say this as a man who's been given opportunities in this world. I haven't felt the sting the way a lot of my brothers and sisters have felt the sting. Certainly I've not been shot dead on the street for doing absolutely nothing, or while I was home in the wee hours of the morning asleep with my mate, or after being accused of something, or selling cigarettes, or just playing with a toy gun in a park. My heart is heavy today. And I just don't know what to do. Don't even really know what's going on. It's happening so fast, and this world is so overwhelming us as a people, but we refuse to quit. We will not quit. We will not let go. We will pursue this. And I believe that justice will prevail eventually. Just with the people in office now, we got to bind together and get them out and put in ones who are going to uphold the laws the way they need to be upheld. So that's the gist of what I can muster up to make an introduction today and have any sort of a devotion. So I want to go ahead and let's just jump out here today. And we want to talk about the climate in America, the racial climate. You know, climate change is a beautiful thing in more ways than one. So with that being said, I want to go ahead and bring in my two brothers today, my two guests in the house, Terry and Jason. You guys out there right now, chime in when you guys become available. I still got I could talk about this topic all night. I mean, Hey. All right, good. Jason, you out there?
Yes, sir, I am. How you doing?
Oh, man, I'm doing real good. I got a lot I could talk about here tonight. You know, like I say, my heart is heavy, so if I don't sound so upbeat and energetic, even the Relentless one, sometimes it's just beat down. And today, after hearing all the news, I'm beat down. I was just kind of going over some statistics, and man, it's crazy in America right now. It is crazy. So with that being said, though, I want to kind of get you guys before we jump into all the topics that are going on today. You guys live in two separate cities, two different states. So, let's just talk a little bit about what you think. What is wrong with America right now? With the climate of America today, what do you guys see is wrong?
Well, one of the things that I see is wrong, just one, is that growing up the way I grew up, it was the way we probably much all of us grew up. We went to their schools. We went, we had to learn the way they talk, the way they interact, the way they do things. But yet we've learned so much about them. We know how to assimilate. We know how to say the right things. We know how to do the right things. But that hasn't been reciprocated. In other words, they haven't. White people have not put forth the effort, if you will, to learn us the way we've had to learn them. Does that make sense?
It does. And it makes a lot of sense.
Right, and that's one thing. And because they don't know us, what they see in television, social media, they think that's us. And I have to say this because this is really dear to my heart. This happened to me when I was like 17 years old. I went to Illinois, and there was only two black people. I was playing baseball, and there was only two black people in the whole town. That was me and my teammate. They had us go stay with this white family and their two kids, and they asked us. They looked at us like we were aliens. They had three heads on our head. And we got there, and they were like, "What type of foods do you like?" We said, "The same as you like that you feed your kids." They were like, "Oh my gosh, really?" Yeah, they thought we were like aliens. But we knew them, but they didn't, But they looked at us like we were totally different than their own kids, And I guess that's what sticks with me, really, even to this day, is that we've gotten to know them. We know them. We know what they're going to do. We know what their reactions are going to be, but they don't know us like that. They haven't got to know us like that on purpose. I'll leave it at that.
So even when I hear that, though, man, I mean, let's just be honest. When I see, because of the way I grew up, when I hear stuff like that, when I hear you say that, my first thought is this, and both of y'all correct me if I'm wrong. My first thought is this: I don't care if you know me. I don't even care if you like me. All I ask you to do is give me my space. Respect me. I respect you. Why is it important you got to know me for you to give me my space, for you to respect me as a human being? How is it I can look at these TV shows?
It's not that it's so. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
No, you go right
really
ahead. Keep going.
There.
Just go.
It's not so much they got to know you personally, as it is to know that the way things affect you is the same way it affects everybody else. You know what I'm saying? If I get in a car accident, I'm gonna bleed just like you. If I lose a loved one, I'm gonna cry just like you. It's putting that human stamp on it. You know what I'm saying? The universal human, should I say? Stamp.
So why do you have to get to know me to know that I'm a freaking human being?
Because so long,
all you need to know is I'm walking on two legs just like you.
And I totally agree with you. It's one of those type of things where it's been for so long. We weren't even considered human. Really, we were considered cattle. Yeah, for so long. And now, for so long, and it's now things have changed. Yes, some things have changed and things of this nature, but you still have certain things that have been passed down. Just like things have been passed down in our culture, things get passed down in their culture, and it's gotten to the point where it's been so ingrained. Not that's giving them an excuse, but it's becoming so ingrained that they got to recognize where their thinking is wrong, and the way they treat people of color is wrong. The way that they go about interacting with us is wrong. What they need to do to correct it.
See, I live. I understand that. I understand that. And my thing is this right here. My thing is this right here is that we go through and we'll look at like we'll talk about problems faced by Black Americans in America, and they'll list lack of a family structure, and they'll list, oh well, you live in dangerous cities with high crime rates. And they'll say, oh, it's high abortion rates. They'll say all these negative things. But the problem facing the Black man in America, in my opinion, is but one thing. And one thing is the way that we administer the law. That's the biggest problem in America. You know, there was an article a couple of years ago, and I think it was CBS, and they said the number one killer of young Black men in America, here it is, now listen to me, is police. Police. Being killed by the police. So young Black men in America have a better chance of being killed by the police than they do by cancer, than they do by being hit by cars or even gang members. How do we face this day to day? Our kids are growing up with PTSD. PTSD is particularly normal in any inner city with young Black kids. I'm not saying all kids don't suffer it. I'm saying it's disproportionately associated with young Black kids. Why? Black men. I'm a Black man in America. I pay my taxes. I obey the laws. Why should I be worried when a police officer, whether he's Black, white, Hispanic, whatever, why should I be worried when I see those red and blue lights, knowing that I have done absolutely nothing wrong? And see,
Sedric,
I think. Go ahead, Jason. Go ahead.
No, I'll let you finish your thought.
No, go ahead.
Well, to chime in on that, this has been a really, eye-opening week. We had our men's group, and this is a bunch of churchmen, and this was probably the topic that came up, and I listened to all of them talk. And granted, let me explain the population of men I'm dealing with. These are men who are not just in the church, but active in the church. I'm talking deacons, pastors, ministers, active in their community, good men. And the thing that came out the most was I could see that being me, right? And you got to think about this. I operate on the right side of the law. Like the worst thing I've ever done maybe have a little speed a little bit, and maybe cheating on my taxes. But like you just said, why is it when I see those red and blue lights, I get in fear of what's going to happen to me? And all I could think about is there is a system out there that is so traumatic. And we were talking in our youth group, and I'm gonna throw this question out there because ultimately this is the question we have to answer. You were right. We're dealing with trauma, and it's not just the kids. It's a community of people dealing with trauma. But the problem is, how do you recover from trauma when you're still in the midst of it and you're still being victimized? Most people who suffer from trauma, like as a kid, as a single event, they get out of that trauma and then start the healing and recovery process. But we as a people, we're still in the middle of the trauma, and we're expected to heal and recover. And the question is, how do we do that? And that's all I could think about as I heard so many stories. I'm talking about all these men speak, listening to you and Terry speak. We are dealing with some trauma as a people that we can't heal and recover from because it's continuing. And we can't even get to a point where now let me start the healing recovery process because it continues to happen.
There it is. How do you heal if every other month, every other year, you've got a high-profile murder that's perpetrated by the people who are supposed to enforce the laws, right? Who the laws are supposed to be equal. Remember, they say justice is blind in America, but I tell you, justice ain't blind in America. They talk about no justice, no peace. And I'll tell you something. I want to talk about what they were doing in Minnesota. And I got to admit, for the first time in my life, I said, I'm not upset with those people for setting those buildings on fire. You know what? Sometimes you got to cry from the mountaintops. Sometimes you got to climb on top of the mountain. Sometimes you got to set that bad boy ablaze so everybody can see you are doing this not because you want to be destructive, because your pain is so great that you cannot carry on any longer. Sometimes I understand why people want to take a life. Sometimes I like to hate. I like to think that I don't understand hate, but sometimes I understand why the hate grows so bad and people make horrible decisions. But crying out from mountaintops all over the world, people, and we right here in America, and especially good Christians, and they look at you and they say, well, we got to let them handle that. That's the secular world. What kind of Christian are you? What kind of human being are you? And that's what I'm talking about. That's where my problem lies. You see, I don't hate the KKK for hating black men. That's what they do. I don't hate the white supremacists for hating me as a black man. That's what they do. What I hate is when innocent people stand by and allow it to happen. I.e., you got 3 officers watching, 1 officer kill another man, kill a black man, and they did absolutely nothing about it. I'm telling you, those are the ones that I'm after. Those are the ones I'm talking about. The hate mongers, you know what? Hey, a 22-cent bullet can fix that. A jail cell can fix that. But those complicit people who stand by and watch it happen and do nothing, those are the people I'm talking to. Those are the people that bother me the most. And how do we fix it as a people? Well, guess what? All we can do is band together. We can put our votes out there, and we can try to live by the law. But darn it, I'm not mad for them buildings being ablaze. I do not condone all the looting and all that. I'm not mad for somebody knowing that enough is enough. We're talking 400-plus years of pain, of oppression, of discrimination, of just being treated unfairly at every turn. No matter how much better we get, we still get treated like dirt. I'm just having a real problem with this today. I'm having a real problem with this. And to piggyback off the frustration you see, we look at. I agree with you. I don't condone the violence, the looting, the stuff that goes on. But as people, we understand that it's really simple. When somebody is hurting and they're in pain, and we turn a blind eye to it, whether it be an adult, whether it be a child, we turn a blind eye to those feelings that these people have, and we dismiss them. And we write them off, and we never really talk to them or really try to understand their feelings or just tell them, like, well, it's in your head, this doesn't exist, then, yeah, there's going to be a sense of frustration. And eventually people are going to act out. And as human beings, you want to think that, hey, we're better than this. It's easy to look at those people on the streets and say, oh, they're wrong, but can we look at those people and, like, how much pain are they going through right now, right? How much pain are they feeling because they don't feel like they can talk to anybody. They don't feel like they have no way to express themselves. So I totally agree with you. I don't agree with what they're doing, but we have to understand that this is a level of pain and trauma that we're facing. And as a country, we've got to understand that it's interesting that you've got a whole race of black people who've been traumatized by a system, and on the opposite end, you've got a whole race of people who've been desensitized by that same trauma. And so we've got to find a way to have real conversations about you're hurting, right? I'm hurting because of the things that I grew up with. And it doesn't do me any good to say, well, it's in your head or this doesn't really exist. It's not a system. It's the individuals. And I'm like, yeah, there are individual people perpetrating evil things, but you can't tell me there's not a system out there that creates a climate for those people to operate in. Yeah. What's funny? You talk about trauma, and in the back of my mind, I can never get out. When you think of trauma in America, things that we have not healed from. Your question was, how do we heal if we're still going through the trauma? I want you to think back. I'm gonna go back to 1800s to like 1960. Jim Crow. I think it was 1870s to the 1960s. How many of us thought that all those Jim Crow laws was all struck down and Jim Crow was dead? You know what I'm saying? It's still perpetrated. It's still out here, and we still haven't healed from it. You want to know how I know? I'll tell you something that disturbs me. That disturbs me an awful lot is when I was looking at the news and I was looking at the situation with Mr. Floyd, and I choose to call him with Mr. Floyd, and the cop had his knee on his neck. I'll tell you something. When was the last time you saw a video of somebody who was Caucasian, who was white, who was killed, and they showed the whole video? They actually showed his face on the news. You see, I have a problem with our society. This is not a group of people. This is our society. This is the way we do things. It's okay to show a black man being killed on TV. Why? Because if you see it enough, you become numb to the fact that it's another black man being killed. As a matter of fact, I was listening to the news today, and there was a prominent black figure, and I forget who it was, so I won't try to think of his name, but he said he heard it, and he didn't think twice about it. But then I think he got some phone calls, and they said, hey, this was your friend that was killed. You knew him in high school, and then it sunk in. This ain't just any black guy. This is somebody I knew. And then all of a sudden it hurt. You see, our society, it's showing it to us so often that it's not that big of a deal. It's just another black man who did something wrong to a cop. But if I tell a cop, let's say I swear at a police officer and tell him to go and play with his mother, is that a reason for me to die? But in our society, that's what we're doing. It bothers me. See, I'm talking about how society depicts us as a people. It bothers me that when I watch shows, I like looking at shows like Cops, and I like looking at Live PD, and I like looking at the First 48. But it bothers me when I look at these shows, and when they talk about young black kids who have, let's say they've committed a murder. The First 48 is all about murders, right? They will call that young kid who could be 12, 14, 15 years old, they will call him a young man, right? A man, an adult. And if it was somebody who was white, they would refer to the white kid, right? He could be up to 25 years old as a kid, as if he's not culpable for making the decision he made. Yes, eventually they prosecute him, but it's the fact that when they show up into the courtroom, when they show up on the TV screens, they use kid, right, saying that, well, this guy really doesn't know what he was doing, so, yeah, maybe he ain't really that bad of a person. But when it's a black kid, he's a man. He's a young man. He's already a man. And I'm talking about as young as 12 years old. And I'm having a problem in America. And I'm saying, how do you get over this trauma when you're continuing to go through this trauma? Do we bear arms? Do we pull out our weapons? Because I can tell you they didn't show it a lot on TV, but I was looking at some of the national news programs, and the first thing they showed this morning was white business owners with their ARs strapped to their necks and their shoulders. They're bearing arms. Mm-hmm. Why? You got a police presence out there. Why do you need a rifle? Why do you need a gun? And I'm having a problem with that. And I'm struggling with this because for me, I know my son's 23 years old, and my son is no way threatening to anybody. But he could just as easily be driving down the street in his little Honda, and he get pulled over, and he get treated like that. And I know my son. My son is he's not one of those kids. He don't get into fights. He don't do stuff like that. He don't even like stuff like that. How do we, going through the trauma, how do we overcome the pain that we've been caused for 400 plus years? And it sucks. And it's bothering me today. And we're talking racial terror. How many of you know that lynching is still not a law in the books against that? Why? That's just something that further serves. And I'm going to go a little bit deeper in this, and please forgive me, anybody listening. Let's go a little bit deeper. It further says to the black man, nigga, we got you. I'm sorry about my language. It's the same thing with these darn Confederate flags. These rebel flags that people, it's a sign of my heritage. Then I should stick you in the neck with a knife. Let's go ahead and end this because your heritage says that I'm not a man. Your heritage tells you we can go through history. The trauma is still here. You use that flag to try to terrorize people. See, my great-grandmother, if she saw that flag today, she would be afraid. If she saw a white cone hat, she would be afraid. Why? Because that's what she grew up with 102 years ago, 110 years of her life. That's what she grew up with. I'm tired of the nonsense, and this is getting hectic. So with that being said, I'm sorry. I know I kind of went on my rant again, but with that being said, how do we really overcome some of this? Terry, tell us a little bit about what's going on in Louisville with Breonna Taylor and how the city's handling that.
Well, I want to go ahead and say Miss Taylor, like you said about Mr. Floyd. Miss Taylor, she was in her home at night with her boyfriend. They were asleep in bed, and the police had a search warrant. They were supposed to have been issuing for someone that was it a known drug dealer, I do believe, and they went to the wrong house. They barged in unannounced, and Breonna, Miss Taylor's boyfriend, he's got a license to carry, concealed and carry. And they didn't announce themselves. They just barged into their home, and he just began to shoot. And when he called, he said that someone broke into their home. And he didn't say that it was the police or anything. After he shot, he called 911 and said someone broke into their home, and they arrested him. They killed Miss Taylor, but they arrested him on attempted murder of a police officer. And found out when the whole thing was over, the person that they were looking for was already in jail. Was already in my correct on that one? He's already in police custody. And the sad thing about it is, so now we have a woman who is an EMT, who was a very good woman. She's now dead as a result of the error of what happened. Now, mind you, this happened in March. I do believe it was in March. And now it didn't get in. The police did not get arrested. They haven't been arrested. They're just now starting the investigation as a result of all the protests that's going on now when it got national attention. Now the police chief is now resigned. He retired. He retired. And now it's starting to get the attention that it should have gotten way back in March. And so that's what happened here in Louisville. Hence, that's why we have a lot of the protests that are going on now. And the funny thing about it is that what really got me on Minister Sedric was the fact that the march was peaceful last night until the police showed up.
Yeah.
When the police showed up, now mind you, the police didn't do anything. It was just their presence there. It was just their presence there, which it just threw the whole climate into one of more anger and rage and whatnot. And then next you know, there was graffiti being put up, there was bottles being thrown at the police, things of this nature, sticks and everything were being thrown at the police. And there was just so much going on last night. And then 7 people got killed last night. In that whole piece, and it was not. Not killed. I'm sorry. They were shot. Thank you. They were shot. And it wasn't by the police they got shot. It was by someone else that was attending. They got shot by
another angry person, right?
Another angry person.
I'm glad you even got to that point because I was reading another article and it talked about how to combat this problem. But we have as a people, some of us have become very angry. We've become very cynical for the same reason that I'm truly deeply disturbed because nothing's being done. Like no matter how much more you try to improve yourself, the stereotype exists. And I'm that guy who says to young men who wear dreads and who just wear their hair any willy-nilly kind of way, who's tattooed from their fingertips to their foreheads, who wear their pants sagging. And I'm the guy who says to them, if you came in my business, I don't know that I would hire you either. I don't care how smart you. You could have a PhD and I never know it because I'm looking at what you're looking like, right? You smell like weed. Smell like weed, walk like weed. You must be weed, right? So I bring that up to say this. We're growing so cynical to where now, again, you know what white supremacy said. I don't know if y'all knew this, but back in the days of Jim Crow, I brought it up for a reason, is that they told those white supremacists, those KKK leaders, they put it out and they said, you guys need to get hired at police departments. They said, you guys need to join the military, learn the tactics of the military, because they want to maintain that level of supremacy. Now, how is that any different than what's going on today? They're doing
it's no different. They're doing Can I say something, though, that you said, though, Brother Sedric?
Go ahead.
Can I tag on something that you I want to jump on something that you said.
Go ahead.
That you talked about earlier. Imagery is feeding into the imagery that's being put out is something that a lot of our people have not learned to do. Now, mind you, these are things that like we were talking about how you were talking about how when you look at commercials, you see a white man with a black female, but you hardly ever see a black male with a white female in commercial. You always see the black boys. You always see the guys with sagging, the black. Right? You see all these negative. You see the angry black man. You see the angry black woman. In all like shows and television and things of this and media and everything. And so what happens is here we go. Now, fast forward that, we have kids who they're walking with their pants sagging. They're out. They got girls out here screaming at the top of their lungs, well, that must be that angry black woman. You know what I'm saying? Just feeding into the narrative that's being put out in the media versus doing the opposite of what's being put out. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. We're buying into the stereotypes. We're completely, America is completely run by sound bites. You don't believe me? We got a person that's holding the highest office in the land. Okay, when the what do they say when the fire starts, the shooting starts, or whatever. What in the world? Mm-hmm. And that's acceptable.
When the
that's acceptable
starts.
With all my beautiful Christians. That is acceptable with some of my Caucasian Christians and black. I know blacks who support the office. I'm saying we have to stand against the stereotype. We've got to reinforce who we are and what we are. And I know some of the smartest people I've seen on TV, some of the smartest people I've ever met, guess what? They fit the stereotype that I don't like. They wear dreads. They got long gray hair and it's all braided up, or they got tattoos from one hand to the next. And they are some of the most intelligent black people I've ever met. Had I not sat down, taken the opportunity to have a conversation with them, I would have just judged them. And I put that out there to say this to the rest of the world, to all of America. You know, we are but human beings. I can't name one thing that a black person has done in his or her life as far as professional that a white person hasn't done. And vice versa. I can't name one thing a white person has done that a black person hasn't done. We're human beings. And that's why I'm having this huge problem. I'm having a huge, huge problem. We spend a lot of our time as black people. I see. Now, I could be wrong, and you brothers, you help me. But I think we spend a lot of our time trying to assimilate into American life. And what I mean by that is, we want to drive nice cars, so we go buy a nice car. We want to live in a nice neighborhood, so we move in a nice neighborhood. We want to make a good living, so we go to college and we land a good job, so we start our own businesses. I don't know a white person in the world who don't want the same thing, or Mexican or anybody else. But why is it when we get there, we still get treated like we're nothing? We get treated like we're back in slavery. You know, people say to me, well, why did you like that movie Nat Turner so much? Why did you like the movie about Nat Turner? What was it? The new remake of the Nat Turner movie, Making of America, or whatever it was. Why? I liked it because he was a man who decided enough is enough. And whether people want to admit it or not, that's where we are today. And we didn't just get here in 2020. I mean, this started all the way back in 2012, 2014, 15, 16, 17. Go back and look at the number of black men. The one story about a black kid who was killed that really sticks to my heart is Tamir Rice. Here's a black kid who was in the park playing with a gun. Yes, he was pointing a little toy gun at cars. Yes, he was over 5 feet tall, but he wasn't but 12 years old. Yes, he pulled the little red stopper out of the barrel of the gun, and he was still playing with it. And within 4 seconds, a police car drove up, identified that was not a toy gun and that he was an adult male, and killed him. And nothing happened to the cop. Mm-hmm. Why are we are hunted like animals. And that's what it feels like. It feels like we are being hunted like animals. And my first thought in my very militant mind is, I won't be stopped. I'm not going out like that. If I got to die, then I got to die. And that is the wrong attitude to have. So what do you guys think? What do y'all think about trying to live this life and get along with people? And Jason, you know this really goes out to you. What do you guys think? What can, as a country as a whole, how can we teach our young men to survive in this climate? Because I'm at the point that everything I learned as a soldier in the United States Army, I've been a recon soldier my whole life, and we do things. Everybody knows I've been deployed. I'm combat tested. I know I've been there. I've done that. I want to teach my son every tactic. I want to teach him everything to survive, but I'm tired of just teaching him to survive. I want to teach him sometimes, and I struggle with this, and I ask God to forgive me. But I want to teach him to take a life. You know what? If I got to die, then I'm going to die taking you. That's crazy, and that's where we are today. So how do we keep from losing our minds and wanting to retaliate all the time? How do we do it? Because I know that violence is only going to bring more violence. But they ain't scared about it, so why should I be afraid of violence? You ain't got nothing to say? All right. Well, this is what I think. I think in order for us to keep going, I do believe in prayer, but I think at some point, God calls us to take a stand, and we have to do something. We have to. We can't just use hate speech and do all these things. I think what we truly have to do is we have to take a stand. And taking a stand right now for me, a nonviolent stand, because I do believe in what Dr. Martin Luther King said. I just don't know that I'm the man that he was and that I could truly do it the way he did it. But taking a stand for me means I will not patronize any of your businesses. I will not go out of my way for anything. I don't hate police, because there are some officers that I know personally who have even offered to give me letters of recommendation to be hired on police forces. I really, truly believe that we need to support these officers, but we need to get people in these offices, in these positions, that are going to stand up for our rights as well. The time is over. You can't just talk to me. I ain't trying to talk. I need action. If anybody saw the Joe Biden interview with what's his name, the God, Charlemagne the God. If y'all saw his interview, if anybody saw that interview, I'm like Charlemagne. Look, show me. I need some receipts. I need to know what you're going to do for me in my community. I need to know that these laws that are on the books with these freaking police departments, they need to change, and that's across the entire nation. Police need to be held to a higher standard than the average Joe. Well, Sedric, what do you mean? You're a trained police officer. I was once told by a judge, you are trained to do a specific type of job, and because you have that specialized training, I'm going to hold you doubly accountable for what you do wrong. Then why come we can't do that with police officers? They go to college. Heck, not only do they go to college, they go to the police academy. Heck, not only do they go to the police academy, they go to police departments and they get recurring training. Why is it that they're not held to a higher standard? Why is it they're held to a standard where they can just say, oh, I was scared for my life, and I pumped 22 rounds in this guy, and he ain't got no gun? You are not allowed just to be scared and squeeze off your trigger anymore. We need to take away that kind of stuff. And these are the types of people we need to put in office so that we can get these rules changed. So it's not enough for you to stand in court and say, I was afraid for my life. Amber Geiger, she took a man's life in his own house in Dallas, Texas, in his own house, and she got 10 years. She's probably only going to do 5 to 7, but all she got was 10 years. That's it. But this man, Bolton John, Mr. John, is never going to be heard from ever again. Why? Because she claimed she smelled marijuana? Because she claimed somebody was walking around in an apartment that wasn't hers? I'm having a problem. So I think that one of the solutions is to put people in offices, put people in place who don't sell out. And y'all know how it is for us. Y'all know how it is being black in America. We get sold out. We get sold out by our own kind, and we get sold out by the other kind. But we need to. That's one of the steps I think we need to take. I think we really need to take that step. And I'm tired of teaching my son to fear police. You know, as a matter of fact, when I had since they were little, I always taught my kids, and maybe this is a crazy thing, but I always taught my kids to say yes and no to police officers. Don't say yes, sir, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir. No, they are not your slave masters. They are police officers. You respect them, and I always taught them to look them in the eye. You look a police officer in the eye. I think they respect that. You be clear and concise with your answers. If they ask you what your name is, you give them your name. If they want your address, you give them your address. Don't go above and beyond. Give them what they ask for and be done with it. Be respectful, and you'll be able to go home. But even that's not working today. They're not even getting a chance to do that. They're getting slammed to the ground. What is this world coming to? So y'all tell me, somebody input something. What can be done? What should we be expecting? What should we expect from white America?
What we should expect from white America? like I've always been one of these type of people. I'm a relationship type of person. They've got to. They're the only ones that can stop racism. And the expectation should be, that's the expectation, and that's where I am with that whole piece.
What is that? I don't understand. You got to explain that to me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't be the one that has to educate you as a black man. You should be able to see these people. They should be able to take the blinders off. The ones that it's like almost like the ones that marched with Martin Luther King, the white people that marched with him, being able to go to their counterparts, their fellow brothers and white brothers and sisters, and being able to talk to them and help them to understand, look, what we're doing, what we've been doing, we've been walking in privilege and an opportunity that they haven't. And I believe that this should be a place of equal law, equal treatment under the law, equal opportunity, equal everything. And they should be the ones that should be talking and standing up to help eliminate what they created.
So in other words, all of this stuff, a lot of this was handed down through the generations, and you're saying, hey, well, we need y'all to stand up too. So in other words, they need to learn how to show some real true empathy in this, right? Like we all know what Dr. King said, right? And we know that he said, you know what, I'm gonna hang in here in the hope that my kids will be judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character, right? Don't judge my kid by the way they look. Judge them by the contents, what's inside of them. And you know what? I think you got a point because I know that you know, like I told you, I had a guy I worked with once, and we talked about that Confederate flag, and I basically explained to him this because he was like, well, I don't see anything wrong with it. And I basically explained to him like this, and I painted this picture, and I said, so you've seen your uncles, your brothers, your grandmothers spit on by people, kicked, punched, called derogatory names, treated like scum, spat on, had feces thrown on them. They're made to work out in the worst conditions. They live in barns, and all the while, there's this orange flag with a blue cross, a blue X on it, and it's flying over the top. And so as you grew up as a kid, every time you saw these negative things, you saw that flag. And then now that you're an adult, you got to go to the county seat. You got to go downtown. You got to go get your marriage license, and you got to see this orange flag with this blue X on it before you walk into the courthouse. You're still living in that trauma, as Jason said. But you, Mr. Caucasian America, going to tell me, well, this flag is great. This flag is a symbol of my heritage. What is your heritage to me? And then this guy, he was at that time in his mid-50s, and he looked at me, and he thought for a minute, and he said, here it is. By God, Sedric, I never thought of it that way. What? You thought, how do we help? You know, show some empathy so we can learn to change these things. Let's get out here together, and let's do it together. But the problem is, I'm going to be honest, I don't believe certain parts of white America want to change it. And to be honest, I don't know that all of black America wants to change it that way. Some of us probably do want to start a wars. But for the most part, the society, the portion of our society that has the most power economically and judicially, because it works in their favor, I don't believe the biggest majority want to change it. I don't believe they
Hello? And Cedric.
Hello? Sedric?
Yeah, I don't know where he went, but I mean...
Yeah. Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, so kind of piggybacking what he said, when we talk about change, that's where the cynical part of me comes up, because we've been talking about this for years and decades and almost centuries, but nothing's changed, right? We're still dealing with the same thing. And I was having a conversation with a friend, and I was telling her, I was like, something can't be right. If there's enough people out there who wants change, who wants difference, then why are we still dealing with this? You know?
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know.
You know, and funny thing that you said that, Jason, it's like about 8 months to a year ago, I had another pastor come to me, a white pastor. He came to me, and we had an incident happen here in Louisville where a prominent pastor of the largest church in the city, he lives in the West End, which is predominantly black. He was driving his Mercedes, and I think he had his wife in the car with him, but he was profiled, racially profiled. And the thing about it is that this white pastor saw that, and it convicted him so. And it really convicted him so, to the point to where he literally called me, and he was in tears. As a matter of fact, he's been on the radio show. His name is John Abel. He was in tears, and he was like, I've done a lot of reading now. I've been praying, and we've been wrong. I've been walking in privilege, not understanding the places where you all are and what's going on. And he's exposed himself. He's opening himself up. He's put himself in a very could be a good position, but it's but he to learn from us. You know what I'm saying? He's opened himself up to dialogue, and for there to be change, that dialogue is what needs to happen. That and it needs to come not from our position, but from people's position and realizing, you know something, I've sinned, I've messed up.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
I really want to amend, or really I want to get my life together to where I treat everybody as human beings, as Sedric said earlier. And that's what John has done with us. So we've been talking to him for almost a year, and we're about to have some, black and white, race and black and white discussions. What he's doing, he's involving his congregation to educate them. He, from his point of view, as a white male, this is what I'm saying, and y'all, and he's throwing it right. Somebody's throwing it right at him. You all really need to think about, the privilege that you've lived in, how you've had it, and how the people over here of other colors, black and brown people, they don't have that. They've never had that. It's always been discrimination. So it's going to take white people really seeing the error of their ways to be able to get to the point to where it needs to, to where that healing can start. Because we can try and try and try and try, but if they're not receptive to what we're trying to do, it's going to fall on deaf ears. Does that make sense?
It does, and I think, especially this week, as I kind of reflect on, because the same question comes up is, what's the answer? Well,
right.
I kind of see a twofold problem. I see the problem with individuals. And like I keep speaking of, the trauma that's experienced by one race of people, by one group of people, and not feeling connected with any other group in that trauma. So what's happening in your church is a great thing, because now people can connect. People can see, I see your hurt, I see your pain, I see I see what you're going through, and now let us connect. And now, that can start helping that healing process. Then the second part of it is this system that we live in that promotes that trauma, the same trauma that we're living in. And this is the part where I am not so hopeful, because Sedric said it, the people who have the power, the influence, the ability to make the change. This is not the first time we've heard this. This is not something that is brand new. This is not something that's been 10, 15 years old. These are decade, almost century-old situations, but nothing's really changed. And the only thing I can make sense of is the people who can actually affect the change, the people who have that influence and power over the system. Like Sedric said, do they really want to change?
Yeah.
And so the question is, how do we? This is supposed to be a democratic state. This is supposed to be a democratic situation. How do we, as the minority, as a group, because I will tell you, the majority of the people out there will agree that this stuff should be taken care of. But why can't we get it taken care of? How do we wrestle the power back so that we can?
But are we supposed to wrestle the power back?
In a perfect world, no. But what we're dealing with this system, that's what I'm telling you, is that nothing. One of the biggest things that really has come out this week, and in talking to so many different guys in my church, across different platforms, is almost a sense of despair. Like, man, how long do we got to keep doing this? Like when I was talking to my men group, we've got a great group of seasoned men who've lived through more overt racism than I've ever faced in my life, and they're saying, man, I just doesn't feel like things are changing. And so this has been around for so long. How do the people in power and the people who can affect the change? I kind of agree with you, Sedric. Do they really want it to change?
Yeah.
Right. So you're right. We should not have to wrestle that power back. But something telling me that the powers that be aren't listening to the people that they are over and they govern. Because like I said, I don't know. I mean, the outrage is uniform across the board. But yet and still, here we are having this conversation again.
And again, and we're expected to be obedient good little boys and girls and go sit down. I tell you, the big problem I had last night with, and I'm just using Minnesota because it was on the news a lot, in Minneapolis, is that the state government, the city government, were more about, hey, let us deal with these police officers. Y'all go on with y'all everyday lives. But the people decided enough is enough. I'm in pain. So everybody, I'm going to let y'all see my pain from the rooftops. I had a problem with the way the government, the city government, was saying, chill out. We'll police our own. But we are a part of your own. And we get treated like we're not. We're expected, we are expected to just go along to get along. The time is out for that. We don't want to go along and get along no more.
And you sometimes feel that they say, hey, trust me, but it's kind of like, we've been dealing with this system for how long? You've been entrusted with this system for how long? And why now do you want me to want me to trust you? Like, because had you done your job in the first place, there wouldn't be a climate like this that would exist that would even have. Forget about the one officer, right? We're gonna call it for what it is. That's a man that wanted to operate in evil. But those three other officers, right? Mm-hmm. What kind of climate have we created that three men are sitting there watching another man take the life of a human being, and all they could do was not just not say anything, but even participate. You had two of the officers holding down the guy's legs, and the third officer keeping everybody away. Right? And you want us to say, you want the leaders want us to say, oh, well, trust us, let us handle it. Well, you've already shown what your leadership does. I'm a big proponent of culture, and I believe that the culture of any organization or of any entity is the sole responsibility of the leadership. If you walk into a church and you've got a church that people are talking bad, gossiping and stuff like that, and that's part of the culture, well, that's the leadership, right? Because, not everybody's going to do the right thing, but that's where a good leader will come in and say, look, either you're going to come along or you're going to get on, one or the other. Yeah. And they're going to protect that culture. Yeah. And so when leadership comes and tell us, trust us, and we're looking at this culture that says, well, you created a culture that allows this trauma, no, you don't get my trust. No, I'm not going to sit down.
Because you said something that's really, really, really special there, Jason. And you keep using the word trauma, but think about this. Think of recovering from trauma, right? If we, and this is what I believe has happened to us as a people, and I believe that this is the way a lot of people want it. is that our poor recovery from trauma, right, basically makes us always feel like the trauma is always there. Carter G. Woodson said in his book that if you know what a man thinks, you don't have to worry about what he's going to do, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think that the trauma that society has us as a people living in we're never without that trauma. Think about this: if you go into a restaurant and you see two white people arguing at a table and they're loud and they're belligerent and the police get called, people just look around and say, "Oh, they're finna escort them out." Go in the same restaurant 5 minutes later, and you got two black people arguing loud. The police come in with the guns drawn. You say, "Oh, somebody's finna die." Why? It's because of the trauma. And what happens to us as a people, we've been so beat down over 400 plus years with this. When the situations arise, we just want it to stop. We don't want to re-trigger anything. We don't want to re-experience the dangers and the harms. And it's crazy. And what happens to society, because they blast it on the news. When it's a black person, they blast it. We become numb to it. And everything, all of the perceived threats become real threats. For us as a people, there's no real such thing as perceived threats. Everything's a real threat to us. Everything is life or death to a black man in America. I used to be one of those guys saying, well, if you just wear the right clothes, if you say the right things, I don't believe that no more. Everything is a real threat to us, and it's like sexual abuse. It's just like our women when they go to the hospital with postpartum problems after they've had a baby, and they talk about being in so much pain. Statistics show that doctors don't even believe the black woman. They don't believe she's in that much pain. This is not just about them killing our young men on the streets, but they're killing our women in the hospitals. They're killing all of us, and it's a systematic effort. And, man, I'm just drained, and I'm heartbroken. I need y'all to talk me off this ledge. I'm telling you, I'm drained. I'm heartbroken. And there's so many triggers in our society that they use to try to keep us as a people in check, even though at the end of the day, we know that they don't work. They put liquor stores on every corner in the hood or in the lower income part of town. Let's just be honest. It's the black parts of town usually, right? They make sure that the drugs are running free out there so we can put the drug dealers in jail. But, we need to keep the drugs on the streets, right? And I'm not even a conspiracy theorist, right? Food. Who ever heard of a food desert? You live in the heart of a city, just because you live in the economically depressed area, you ain't got no good grocery stores. And the ones you got, the prices are 20 to 30% higher than the other ones. Jobs. They ain't putting no jobs in the ghetto because we can't keep them safe, right? So they let anybody who got enough money to put a mom and pop shop up to jack up the prices come in and do their thing. We don't have stuff to do, and then they always blame it on you, and they say, well, that's because they don't take care of stuff. They ain't doing nothing but killing each other. But remember that statistic, that little article I read to you guys. That article was from 2019, and it said the blacks have a better chance of being killed by cops than they do anything else. That was in 2019. I read that. The article was from 2019. So again, we've got to still, with this trauma, Jason and Terry, we still got to grow as a people. We still got to get through this because we can't quit. We can't give up, right? We're relentless, right? We're relentless.
Right.
How do we keep going? How do we keep going? Because I'm not one for complaining a bunch. I start acting a fool and I start complaining too much, and we don't want that. I don't want to go to jail. So how do we keep going?
I mean, I tell you this, like there is no, for me, the solution is not a man-made solution. It's not a solution that comes from man. It comes from our relationship with God. We ask that first question: how do I heal in the midst of the trauma? How do I heal and recover from the trauma in the midst of the trauma? Only a supernatural God can do that, and only a relationship with Him is going to allow that to get done. And I think we start by healing the people on both sides, and truly getting back to that. And then, as a people, we go find God and say, God, we know that you've got a greater plan for this, and this world may not be your world, but I know you don't. I know you want better than this. So, guide us, direct us, lead us to really just your will be done. because I can tell you I can't believe this is God's will for, for His people and for His children.
Okay, Terry,
one thing I've come to learn, Jason, is that God has His divine will, but He also has His permissive will. He allows things to happen so that they can produce another outcome. And there are certain things that are only going to come as a result of that situation occurring. Prime example, when you think about it, 4 days ago, there was nobody arrested. It had to, what happened? They had to burn almost Minneapolis to the ground for there to be a light cast on it, to where it will bring this person to the beginning part of justice. Even does that make sense? But I believe God allowed that to happen to help do some other things. I was listening to somebody today. They were saying that they've noticed that the people that are protesting are diverse. It's a diverse group of people that are protesting. It's not just black people. It's white people, Chinese, brown people, everybody. That is, so when you look to your right, the person on your right ain't black. It may be maybe a white female. The person to your left may be a Puerto Rican or Mexican, Hispanic. But the thing, and what is that to do? Honestly, we're walking for justice, for peace. And if we're doing those things are of God. Does that make sense? Yeah, those things are of God.
Absolutely.
When you're seeking peace and justice, those things are of God. And so what God is doing, He's using this right here to bring some folk together. That's being the church. It's about being the church, not just attending going to a building, but being the church. Being the church, standing up for what's right according to God's word. That we all came from God, like Sedric read in Genesis just earlier. He said, let us make man in our image. Like, He didn't put color there, did He? No, He just said, let's make them in our image and our likeness.
Yeah,
this is really bringing us together, but God is using it to bring us together in His permissive will. He's allowed that thing to happen, I believe.
And Terry, I think that is key right there. The fact that we look at this circumstance and the situation, and we call it for what it is evil. But to see God work in this evil, to see God work in this circumstance and situation for His good and His glory. We talk about, what do we do? Well, this is what we do. We look for God, and we don't allow the evil of this system to take us away from our God. Because not only can God heal and restore me as an individual, but He can heal and restore us as a community. He can heal and restore the land. The land. Yes. That's what the Bible says. Yes. The land. That's what He's saying. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I heal the land. See, that's the key. But there's some things that we've got to do first. You know what I'm saying? That we are the people, and God is using this situation to really bring us together and to begin to really seek His face. Humble ourselves, pray, all that good stuff. Then we hear from heaven and He'll heal the land. So we've got to understand that this right here, God can use this for His glory. But my thing about it is we got to be lined up with the plan. We got to be lined up with His plan. We got to see God in this.
I agree, and
I'm sorry.
I like Proverbs a wee bit there, and I remember in Proverbs, and correct me if I'm a little bit wrong, but I believe it says a cheerful heart is good medicine, but a crushed spirit dries up the bones. And I think right now that's what's happening. Our spirits are being crushed. A cheerful heart is good medicine, but we won't get back to that cheerful heart until, again, I believe what needed to happen in Minneapolis happened. Who's to say what they're going to do with these officers, with this one particular officer, because they haven't done anything to the other three. But you know what? There is a time for healing, and we do need a time for healing. But I can tell you the last 5 years have not been a time of healing. It's just been a very we've been in an incubation state. People are still being killed. Black people are still being wrongfully convicted. We're still being treated horribly. And it's like that every day. It's like if you're brown, if you don't fit the mold that they have for you, then you automatically are assumed guilty of something. It might not have been passing a counterfeit $20 bill, but you was guilty of something. And I think we got to grow from this. I think, and what I just ask God to be gracious, and I ask God to just bring out more strength in me and give us everything we need, because, you know what, I can't take matters in my own hands. And even though I do get angry, and I'm happy to express my anger, I guess, so that people can hold me accountable and I don't act out on it, I do turn to God first. But how do you turn to God when you have so many people who claim to be Christians, or so many people who don't give a care about God? How do you reach those people? See, I don't quite have that Daniel thing in me yet. I'm trying. Daniel ain't quite living there yet. I'm trying. I ain't quite got there yet. You know what I'm saying? I'm kind of like, David, guys, you told me to kill all these people. Hey, they gone. They out of here, And so I personally, that's how I really truly feel. But I want people to be healed, and I don't want the deaths of these men and women to go in vain. One of the parts about healing from these traumas is we get through the trauma, and then we process the healing on the other side. Is to not drag all the hurts with us continuously, but at some point we've got to be allowed to heal. And I'm saying this, my friends, in the white America, the other America, right? Is allow for it to heal, and the only way that it's allowed to heal is, again, you just like the protests that are interracial. You got to get in the trenches. Whatever happened in 1800 happened in 1800. Y'all lost the war. I'm sorry. Okay, the South lost. It ain't gonna rise no more to be that no more. I'm gonna break some hearts. It ain't rising no more. Okay, it's gone. I know you're trying to bring it back, but it's gone. But I tell you, I think the real culprit of racism today for us as a people is money. It's greed. I think that's the real culprit of racism right now. But we still got to grow. We can't allow, and I appreciate what both of y'all just said. I know we got to close out here in a minute. Is that we still have to grow through this. We can't allow ourselves to be pigeonholed, and we're not hogs being led off to slaughter. We're human freaking beings, and we need people to respect that. And I'm still going to say this. For all my brothers and sisters who are feeling outraged and angry, be constructive, but let your voice be heard. Be constructive. You don't have to go break laws to be heard, but let your voice continually be heard. And I think that's what we need. I think that's what we need in all of our communities. I think we need to raise our kids that way. Another problem we've had, y'all know, since the 1980s, y'all know what's going on. We're going to destroy the black family. We're going to break them up. We're going to take the head of the household out. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to tell the young women, y'all can get this public assistance, but you can't have no man in the house. Can't have no man in the house. Oh, we need all the girls to raise these young men, not to be men, but to be little boys until they well up into their adulthood, because it's a heck of a lot harder to turn a boy who's the same age as a man into a man than it is to raise a boy to be a man in the beginning, right? And I think we really need to start to galvanize our communities once again. And we need to really start some way, somehow. Maybe we can start some community activism where we go in and we teach one another. We teach people, young men who don't have much, how to get what they need. It's not all about all this craziness going on. So that way, when they do see a police officer, they know they're right. And I tell you what, have y'all ever seen? Did y'all ever look at those older movies, like in the days of Malcolm X in the '60s, and the Nation of Islam? Those brothers, they knew the laws, and they would stand there and talk to the cops. They wasn't intimidated by the police officers. There was a certain level of arrogance in that. Don't get me wrong, but they knew what the law was, right? They knew what could and what wouldn't happen, right? Why can't we be teaching each other that now? So I want to go ahead and close out by saying this. Today's been a pretty good time. I got a little venting done, but I want to say this. We are relentless in our pursuit of Christ and in our pursuit of happiness as God sees fit for us. But more than anything, right now today, I want to encourage everybody, the sound of my voice. Let's pray. Corporate prayer is great. I am also a man of action, but we've got to put wheels on this. We can't just pray about this and say, oh, well, it's all said and done, and in 6 months, everything go back to the status quo. Let today be the first day of the rest of your life that you're start to do something better, that we demand change, that we demand to be treated equally, that we demand that we are who we are because God created us the same way he created you, right? And he made us to do what we do. So let's go ahead and get on our destinies, and let's move forward in that way. And we're going to get ready to close out here today. I want to thank y'all again for tuning in for Relentless Pursuit. This Minister Sedric. You know what I say, find something you love. I say you embrace it, you chase it, you find it. That'll be your relentless pursuit. So we love you. We love God, and we're going to keep on praying. And let us all continually pray corporately for what's going on in our country. And stand fast. Let's not turn a blind eye. This will be the one time we don't turn a blind eye. We don't turn away. Let's look the enemy in the face and know that God is with us, and let's keep marching on. With that being said, I want to say thank you. God bless you. We love you. And until next week, y'all have a beautiful weekend. Sister Kimmy, you want to take us out?
Trapped in poverty, generations of injustice and inequality, and steps to change the world. And though they came in chains, in you the strength and hope lives and still remains. You're mighty and majestic, descendants of kings and queens. Royal blood flows through your veins. Children of the dream. Hold your head up high. Keep reaching for the sky. No matter what, I know you can take it. No doubt about it. You're gonna make it. Your royalty. You are royalty. You're royalty. We got a message from above. You ain't no thug. You're royalty. Brother, you're a king. Sister, you're a queen. Children of a dream. If you've never been told, it's time for you to know you're royalty. Every day and every hour, stand up tall with pride and power. No matter what people say about you, never ever fail you. Keep pushing, give it all you got. Don't stop till you reach the top. So hold your head up high. Hold your head up high. Keep reaching. No matter what, know you can take it. No doubt about it. You're gonna make it. You're royalty. Oh yes, you are. Got a message from above. You ain't no thug. You're royalty. Brother, you're a king. Sister, you're a queen. Children of the tree. If you've never been told, it's time for you to know you're royalty. You're beautiful. Beautiful. So beautiful. So beautiful. We got a message from above. You ain't no thug. You're royalty. And you're marvelous. Marvelous. And so powerful. Powerful. If you've never been told, it's time for you to know you're royalty. You're royalty. Royalty. Oh, royalty. You are royalty. We got a message for you. We got a message from above. You ain't no thug. You're royalty. My brother. Brother, you're a king. Sister, you're a queen. Children of the tree. If you've never been told, it's time for you to know you're royalty.
King Kuta, here for you and I. Got this message, I'm spreading the most high. Head high, I shine like my father smile. Down upon my kings and queens of all time. Blessed man of color, original king ruler. Slave that made a way metaphorically. King